You find an old photo of strangers until you see your own face staring back. But the picture was taken a century before you were born. Now, the whispers begin at night. Your reflection moves when you don't, and that empty grave in your nightmares. It has your name on it. This isn't a coincidence, it's a warning. And you're already too late to escape what's coming for you. Let me tell you why you should be afraid of photographs. Welcome to the spooky place, where sleep is never safe and nightmares begin with a story. The man in the photograph. The attic was thick with dust, the air heavy with the scent of decayed wood and yellowed paper. Daniel had only climbed up to clear out his late grandfather's belongings. But as he sifted through the forgotten relics of the past, something caught his eye. A photograph, brittle with age, tucked inside a rusted tin box. The edges were frayed, the image faded, but the figures were still clear. A group of men and women in stiff, old-fashioned clothing, their expressions solemn, as if frozen in time. At first, it was just an odd curiosity. Then his blood ran cold. There, in the back row, stood a man who looked exactly like him. The same sharp jawline, the same slight crook in the nose, even the same way his left eyebrow arched slightly higher than the right. Impossible. The photo was dated 1912, over 100 years ago. Daniel's hands trembled as he turned it over, finding a single word scrawled in spidery ink. Again, that night, he dreamed of them, the people in the photograph. They stood in a mist-shrouded graveyard, their hollow eyes fixed on him, their lips moving in silent unison. The man who wore his face smiled, a slow, knowing grin, and pointed at an open grave. Inside, the coffin was empty, waiting. Daniel woke with a gasp, his sheets drenched in sweat. But the worst part, the photograph was no longer in the tin box. It was on his nightstand, facing him. And the next morning, when he looked in the mirror, his reflection didn't blink when he did. Something was coming for him. Something that had been waiting a very, very long time. Daniel stumbled back from the mirror, his breath coming in ragged gasps. His reflection remained frozen, its lips curled into a slow, unnatural smile. Then, as if peeling away from glass, the figure leaned forward, out of the mirror, its fingers twitching toward him. Daniel screamed and hurled his lamp at the glass, shattering it into jagged shards. But when the last pieces clattered to the floor, the reflection was gone. Or so he thought. That evening, as he paced his living room, the television flickered to life on its own. Static hissed, then cleared to reveal the photograph. His photograph. But now, the figures were moving, their heads turned in unison, their eyes locking onto him through the screen. The man who wore his face stepped forward, pressing a rotting hand against the glass. A whisper slithered from the speakers. "You've been chosen." The lights exploded in a shower of sparks, plunging the room into darkness. Something cold and skeletal brushed against Daniel's neck. He bolted for the door, but it wouldn't budge. The wood had warped, fused shut as if aged decades in seconds. Behind him, wet, dragging footsteps crept closer. Then his phone buzzed. A notification from an unknown sender. A new photo. Trembling, he opened it. It was him, but not as he was now. The image showed his own corpse, decayed and grinning, standing among the same group from the original photograph. The timestamp read 1912, and beneath it, a message. "You've always been one of us." The walls began to bleed, the air filled with the stench of wet earth and old death. And from the shadows, a chorus of voices, his voice, 100 times over, began to chant, "Again, again, again." Daniel realized the horrifying truth too late. He wasn't seeing the past. He was remembering it. Daniel's breath came in ragged, panicked bursts as the walls of his home pulsed like living flesh. The floorboards groaned, warping into gnarled fingers that clutched at his ankles. The air itself seemed to thicken, pressing against his skin like the damp walls of a long-sealed tomb. His phone buzzed again. Another message. "Look behind you." He didn't want to, but his body moved on its own, his neck creaking like rusted hinges as he turned. There, in the corner of the room, stood the man from the photograph, the one who wore his face. Only now, the resemblance was gone. The thing's skin sagged, peeling away in gray strips, its jaw unhinged like a snake's. It reached for him with blackened fingers, and Daniel finally understood. This wasn't a ghost. It was what remained of himself. The thing's mouth split into a grin, revealing rows of needle-thin teeth. "You left us waiting," it hissed. Then the walls gave way. Daniel fell, not down, but through, plunging into a void of whispering shadows. Hands, cold and skeletal, clawed at him from the darkness, dragging him deeper. He tried to scream, but his voice was gone, stolen by the abyss. And then, silence, light. He was standing in a field, the air thick with the scent of turned earth and burning coal. A group of people in old-fashioned clothes stood before him, their faces eerily familiar. The same faces from the photograph. A woman stepped forward, pressing a heavy, rusted shovel into his hands. "It's your turn," she whispered. Daniel looked down. A freshly dug grave yawned open at his feet, and inside, his own face stared back, rotting, waiting, smiling. The shovel trembled in his grip. The voices around him rose in a chant, their words slithering into his ears like worms. "Bury him, bury him, bury him." And with a horror beyond understanding, Daniel realized he had done this before, 100 times, 1,000, and he would do it again. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe for more scary stories.